Hello everyone, I am Grand Royson. Welcome to new video, Volume 3 Chapter 1. The first-year students of the Advanced Nurturing High School are on a luxurious liner for a 2-week cruise trip prepared by the school, after the end-of-term exam. D class, in particular, is enjoying the atmosphere and sceneries. Kikyo Kushida wonders about Suzune Horikita's lack of appearance, to which Kiyotaka explains that she is probably in her room. The destination of the ship is a deserted island owned by the school. Ken Sudo has a small argument with some A-class students but restrains himself. Kanji Ike asks Kushida to call her by the first name and she accepts, prompting Sudo to express his desire to do the same with Suzune and asks Kiyotaka to help him practice. The deserted island comes into view and students are asked to prepare themselves and assemble on the deck. Suzune eventually appears as she has been in her room reading a book. After disembarking from the ship, the teachers start doing roll call for their classes. A-class's homeroom teacher, Mishima, then announces the start of the first special test. The test will last 1 week on the deserted island and the students are required to live together as a group. They will not be allowed to return to the ship without a justifiable reason. Each class will receive 2 tents, 2 flashlights and a box of matches. As the students appear dissatisfied, the teachers explain the theme of the test is freedom, and they can still be able to do whichever activities they want during the week on the island. Each class also receives 300 S points as budget and a survival manual. When the test is over, the class's remaining points will be added to their total class points. A student from A class is absent due to poor health, leaving them to start with 270 points. Some D-class students start thinking about the increase in allowance points if they can survive the week. Each student receives a smart wristwatch that they mustn't take off during the test. Chabashira mentions that she doesn't know any way to pass the test without spending points. She also points out the penalties they may receive in the process, listed in the last page of the manual. Those unable to continue the test due to poor health or injury will result in a 30-point penalty and retirement. Pollution of the environment will result in a 20-point penalty. Each absence at 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. daily roll call will result in a 5-point penalty. Violence, theft, or destruction of property against another class will result in immediate failure for the class to whom the offending student belongs and the forfeiture of all that student's private points. In case the class's points budget is already at 0, the point penalties will be nullified. Chabashira then instructs her students on how to make a basic toilet from cardboard. Satsuki Shinohara from the girls' side strongly rejects the idea, causing her and Ike from the boys' side to argue. Meanwhile, B-class's homeroom teacher, Chie Hashinomiya, comes over and greets Chabashira with a hug, then spots Kiyotaka and teases him about his love life. Chabashira grudgingly tells her to go back, then proceeds to explain about additional rules. There are designated spots on the island where a class can have the right to occupy them and use the area as they wish. A special key card is required to occupy a spot. The key card can only be used by the person designated as leader. The leader cannot be changed without suitable justification. Each occupation of a spot grants 1 bonus point to the occupying class. Occupation rights expire every 8 hours, and each renewal grants another bonus point to the class in question. The bonus points cannot be used to spend during the test but will be added later to the class points total. Using another class's occupied spot without permission will result in a 50-point penalty. On the last day of the test, each class can declare who they think is the leader of the other classes. For each leader guessed correctly, that class receives 50 bonus points while the class whose leader is guessed correctly loses 50 points as a penalty and loses all bonus points gained during the test. If the leader is guessed incorrectly, the class loses 50 points as a penalty. Chabashira finishes her explanation and D-class begins to act. Yosuke Hirata lists and discusses the needs of camping spots and necessities. The girls' and boys' sides, particularly Shinohara and Ike, start arguing again about the toilet matter. Since a temporary one costs 20 points, the boys want to use just the cardboard ones to preserve their points as much as possible and only spend them when necessary, while the girls, except Kei Karuizawa, object to the idea. Kiyotaka and Suzun watch the situation from a distance and they discuss the test. After seeing A-class and B-class have already started preparing, D-class students decide to put the toilet matter aside and begin to find camping areas and spots. While carrying stuff along with the other boys, Kiyotaka talks with Suzun, who is not in a good mood because of the test. She points out it is likely to fall outside her academics abilities, while Ike and Sudo had taken the initiative to help the class instead of being hindrances. She is also curious about plans and movements from other classes. She then asks Kiyotaka about his disinterest in moving up to A-class and the reason why he chose this school, with Kiyotaka replying he only wanted to make use of the school's privileges. Hirata and Yukimura have a discussion to resolve the toilet matter, with Hirata concludes a temporary one is necessary to spend points on. D-class students then gather 12 people into 4 teams to search in the forest for camping places. Kiyotaka is in the same team with Eri Sakura and Rokusuke Koenji. While Koenji wanders ahead, Kiyotaka and Eri start talking for a bit. Kiyotaka and Eri then try to catch up with Koenji as he keeps rushing forward. They end up to lose sight of him and decide to slow down. They then find a pathway which leads to a cave that is used as a spot. Kiyotaka notices someone being there and quickly hides himself and Eri. They overhear Kohei Katsuragi, who is holding a key card, and Yahiko Tatsuka from A-class talking. Katsuragi has discovered the pathway back on the ship when it took a tour around the island and mentions that other paths can lead to some facilities. After they've left, Kiyotaka and Eri approach the cave. A monitor shows that A-class has already claimed the spot and Eri asks if Katsuragi is A-class leader, with Kiyotaka telling he will report it to Hirata. When they return to their class, Kiyotaka finds out that Koenji has split up to go swimming and has already returned. Ike and his group have found a spot near the river and the class head over there. They decide to use it as their base camp and Suzun will be the leader. Ike and Sudo have an argument with Shinohara about the water source before Hirata intervenes. Kiyotaka then points out Ike is surprisingly good with outdoor activities. Ike explains that he used to go camping before and admits that he should have handled things differently as the others don't seem to have camping experience. He then leaves for a swim and Suzun notes that Ike can be helpful with his knowledge. She then asks Kiyotaka to persuade Koenji to help the class. Kiyotaka accepts and leaves, thinking about how Suzun will face the test as she now has to rely on cooperating with others. As the 2 tents are set up, Hirata asks Kiyotaka to find branches to make a bonfire. Kiyotaka then asks Suzun to come along but is unsuccessful. He tries asking Sudo and Yamauchi but gets rejected. Eri then offers to go with him and Yamauchi unexpectedly joins in and the 3 of them head into the forest. While spreading out to collect branches, Yamauchi expresses to Kiyotaka his interest in Eri and asks him for help but Kiyotaka refuses. While returning, the 3 of them discover Mio Ibuki, who has seemingly been kicked out of C-class camp due to a dispute and invite her to stay in their camp. Ibuki is surprised and argues that she's their enemy, but eventually follows them back after their insistence. After returning to the camp, Yamauchi tries to make the bonfire but fails to do so. Kiyotaka points out the branches are too big and damp and Ike comes to help to make the bonfire. The class starts gathering together at their camp after finding foods, with Ike demonstrating his camping knowledge. He also apologizes to Shinohara for their arguments earlier, to which she responds similarly. Hirata then proposes his plan for the class to survive the test with 120 points remaining. Kiyotaka approaches Ibuki to check on her and introduce himself. The class then agrees to use the river as their water and food source and decides to purchase some other necessities. They then switch their attention to Ibuki, and Hirata heads over to talk to her. Ibuki reveals she had a fight with another boy in her class and got chased away. Hirata persuades her to stay with D-class and successfully convinces them to look after her. They also purchase food and water sets for the night, along with more tents for the boys. Everyone then notices Koenji's absence. Chabashira informs them that Koenji has asked to drop out of the test due to poor physical condition and has already returned to the ship. This also means D-class has 30 points deducted. The students are astounded and become furious after hearing the news. If you like this video, please like, subscribe and share for more. Thanks you all, meet you in another video.